Pro-built systems, solving problems with power.
All right, I'd like to welcome you guys to Power On. Today we're going to be talking about Apple computers. I am your host, John.
And I'm Church. How?
So, basically, if you guys are not aware in the tech community, Apple has announced recently their whole series of watches along with some new laptops and stuff like that. And some of the stuff is kind of controversial, like the $10,000+ Apple Watch. Honestly, the thing that I dislike about it the most is that they created their own medium of gold.
I mean, Apple's gonna do what Apple's gonna do. You know,
Yeah.
they've got to carve their niche.
Yeah,
And they do that in the we have high end build quality stuff. You know, they were the first people to popularize the aluminum unibody. Now a lot of people have done it since because it's been a thing that people have wanted. You know, like HTC did it. I think it was like Asus or Lenovo made a unibody computer as well, and then so I mean, if they want to make their own gold, by all means, I mean, go for it.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna buy it, you know, and they're not gonna cry over it. So,
I mean, the biggest complaint I hear about people talking about getting a watch like that is one, they mixed the gold with I think it's a plaster or something. I can't remember what they mixed it with instead of a metal.
huh?
So they changed its mass versus its weight, which is weird. But the point is, there's not a lot of rare metal traders who are stepping up right now saying that they would accept that metal, right?
Okay.
So you have a watch that is going to become obsolete at a fairly reasonable pace. So the comparison to the $10,000 watch is like a Rolex. Like, there's not a lot of watches you spend $10,000 on.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, if you're a watch guy and if that's what you want, that's what you get. And
Right.
then if people are willing to pay for it, then someone is always going to be willing to pay for it.
Right. But what we're comparing it to is the Rolex and its resale value. Like a Rolex as a timepiece and, and rare metals and diamonds and stuff like that. Rolex is maintained like a resale value.
Yeah, I guess, but then I don't know, man. It could be again like a niche collector's piece too.
Right.
You know, if they don't sell a ton in the beginning, then it could be one of those things that people want.
It's actually one of those things, like, if it failed, it would actually be worth more.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Pick one up at clearance for $7,000. You know. And then the market will adjust to that too. I'm not worried about it because I'm never going to have one. I don't care to ever have one.
Right.
So that's no big deal to me. I'm more interested in what Apple has come out recently with their new MacBook, not the MacBook Air, not the MacBook Pro, just the new MacBook. That's what interests me a lot.
Yeah. And the thing about that one that's the most interesting is the lack of things that are interesting.
Well, it is an interesting concept. I think it's a poor execution of an interesting concept. But if you haven't seen the new MacBook's tiny. It's the thinnest MacBook they've ever made, not the thinnest computer ever made, mind you. They did some new stuff with their touchpad where it gives you haptic feedback now, so it's a little like vibration. There actually is no depress. Like there's no actual physical click anymore, but it feels like it kind of, which is interesting. But they're using, a circuit board in there that's, like this big for the entire computer, which is cool.
Yeah.
Super overpriced, not super powerful, but it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, when you consider the cost of one of those units versus its capability.
Well, yeah. I think they're trying to bank more on the their battery technology. I haven't been able to do hands-on with their stuff, and like not many people have.
Yeah.
To really test out these layered these layered bendable battery weird things that they have going on, so they can stack a ton of batteries in there. So if a MacBook, which is a full OS 10 or like laptop can run for a couple days just on battery,
Yeah.
then I mean that'd be nice for some people. Now it's not. I mean I don't know. It's not the price nice, and Apple
Right.
stuff never is really.
Right, but usually I could justify like a MacBook Pro. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted it, I could justify it.
Maybe
Well, I mean,
the only Macs that I've really ever like justified price on were like Mac Minis.
okay.
Sometimes like the iPod touches, because those were basically iPhones without the
Right, I
the
mean,
3G 4G kind of
Some
stuff.
of the iPods and stuff like that, they've had pretty decent features.
Right.
Even some of the iPhones I could justify if you really like, if that was what you wanted.
But most everything else can be beat out, like just
Right,
just
absolutely.
spec to spec.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about spec to spec. I'm saying that if I wanted a Mac because it's what I wanted, I could justify the purchase of a Mac Pro because it's a usable, functional laptop that has all the functionality. Even though I'm paying more to get it,
Yeah.
I could justify the purchase. I couldn't, if I wanted a Mac, the new MacBook, there's no way I could justify that purchase. It's subpar to such a degree, and it's more inconvenient.
Yeah. Well, another thing that they've put out in this new MacBook is they have a USB 3.1C type connector that's reversible. It's not a world first. Like Apple did not invent USB 3.1C. They did not invent that. It's a standard that the USB people put together. But it only has one port on the entire thing.
Right.
So USB-C is used for charging.
No LAN,
Yeah. No land is wireless.
no
but
sound, no nothing.
It has.
No sound output. Everything.
Oh, okay.
This is the
I thought
only
you'd-
physical port.
Yeah, it's the only physical port. Yeah, I thought you meant like it's no speakers. I was like,
No.
it's got speakers, man.
I mean, no sound plug.
Yeah. No headset.
So-
no headphones.
Right. And if I recall, I think people forgot about this pretty quickly, but the charging brick has a USB plug on it. If I remember seeing that at some point, that might not have been the final one, but when a long time ago when they talked about doing this design, because they said you can use splitters and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I recall the charging brick actually having a USB, like a standard current generation USB plug on it. I don't know if that's the one that
it would
they
make
went with.
sense. but-
Yeah, that would make it a lot less inconvenient. But then you still got to plug in your charging brick to use it, which is
Yeah. I mean, if you're going for a laptop that thin, that light, with that much battery life, the point is to not have your power brick with you.
right. But the way that they designed it is the opposite of that. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
have to have stuff plugged in to plug in stuff, which is kind of a weird thing to think about in a laptop because the cooling for it makes it not viable as a desktop. Like this isn't a desktop replacement laptop.
Oh God, no.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
it's just like the architecture itself just isn't,
Right.
desktop replacement.
None of it is aimed at that.
No.
But then you think of having to have stuff plugged into it, where you're not ever going to have the convenience of just plugging a thumb drive into it.
Well, the problem, I think, just boils back down to the price point, because this is not a MacBook Pro. This is not like something you're supposed to do like heavy lifting on, right? This is supposed to be like MacBook Air, MacBook. It's MacBook
Right.
Air, then MacBook Pro, then iMac, Mac Pro.
Right.
But they don't want you to do a lot of productivity stuff. They want you to check your email, and they want you to like
watch YouTube videos.
Right.
This is a media consumption device.
right. But then it costs you like $1,500.
Right.
And you don't pay $1,500 for something to do that. You could just get an iPad. You know?
Exactly. In their same ecosystem.
Right. Yeah.
It's a much better.
Yeah. Just an
device.
iPad's way better,
And
and a MacBook Air is still way better.
yeah.
Because iPad's gonna have better battery life. MacBook Air, if you actually wanted to do something later or have ports to do something, then you can.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets me. That's, in the end, the price is outlandish, but the lack of functionality for the price.
Yeah.
Even for Apple. Like, because I know that Apple usually they aim for a higher price point, and you do get a few things with the higher price point. Normally, as someone who's technically savvy, I can't justify them myself. You get a universal operating system that has driver support for anything that they put into it. And
Yeah.
that by itself is a really convenient thing for people who need that.
Yeah, and you have the whole ecosystem too.
Right.
Like if you're used to using one app, one specific program on any kind of Apple setup, then you have that same functionality on every single thing you do.
Right.
And it's not quite the same with Windows, especially not if you're using like any other thing in the Windows ecosystem. Like Windows RT is not going to have it.
No.
You know, like Windows 8 and Windows 7 could be drastically different.
Well, I mean, that's one of my problems with the Windows.
Segmentation.
Yeah, and I've talked to people at Microsoft, and they even say that there's like a really bad breakdown in communication in between departments.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get issues where things that are supposed to be companions to one another, like the upcoming Windows 10 and the Windows Phone.
Yeah.
But I know those guys aren't communicating to a degree that's going to allow those products to be companions.
Yeah.
Even when they share features like Cortana, a core component, they're not going to work well together. We've seen that time and time again with them.
Yeah, I think that's why people stick with the Apple ecosystem, because once they get into it, like they just get so like settled in, you know.
Yeah,
they have all their iCloud stuff, they have their iMovies, they have their
Yeah, and I could definitely see it from an ecosystem standpoint, but you're still gonna have to have that money. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
the people who I don't get like clinging to Apple is poor, dumber people.
Okay.
Well, and I'll tell you why. Like, someone's wife, she had an issue with her email not working in any of the Apple software. She couldn't get it. It was a Yahoo mail. I mean, it's a pretty basic situation.
Okay.
But not being able to understand and get it to work, take it to the Apple store, and they're like, you know, you need an appointment. She's like, I just wanted to send my email. She's like, yeah, well, you need an appointment. She's like, you're not even doing anything right now.
Yeah.
Well, you need an appointment.
Well, a doctor wouldn't see without an appointment, John.
If you had doctor care,
It's like walking into, you know, Princeton Medical School and asking for.
is it?
Well, I mean, in their eyes, I guess.
Right.
Like
But
they have an entire knowledge base online. You know, they want you to use
we're
they want you
talking
to
about
use an
people
Apple
who are
address
not
anyway. They don't want you to use Yahoo anymore.
Oh.
Screw Yahoo.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
honestly,
mean, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Yahoo isn't great. I still use it just because I have all my spam going to one, and it's good for that. It just collects all of it, all those like 40,000 messages. But I don't know. It's if you start within the Apple ecosystem and stay within the Apple ecosystem, it's you know a Kool-Aid kind of experience. You know.
Yeah,
you've already drank the
see
Kool-Aid.
that.
You're there. So.
To me, the watches are the more interesting bit.
Well, you're a watch guy.
Not really.
Right. So, I mean, I can see why you're more interested in that.
Well, I'm interested in them in regards to the way that they will either affect the industry greatly or they won't. Like, I'm pretty sure they will, just because that's Apple's MO as far as.
I mean, it'll probably get Samsung like into gear, if anything. Like, I mean, that's what Apple does well. Is Apple puts the pressure on Samsung, and that usually spurs on
A
the
better
industry.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem I have again is price point on the Apple Watch, because it doesn't do anything better than any of these
Well,
watches.
I mean, that's the problem we have with Apple in general.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at it from the I'm on the Apple ecosystem like bandwagon, is just like, well, you know, I didn't upgrade to the 6, but I got the 5S. You know, I'm gonna get my Apple Watch because I didn't get a 6. You know, I saved that $800 or whatever, and then I'm gonna get a new MacBook. I'm gonna get for my birthday, and then I'm gonna get an Apple Watch for Christmas, and then I'm gonna have my iPhone 5S, an Apple Watch, and a MacBook, and that's just gonna be it. You know,
Yeah.
they've got their ecosystem set,
Right.
and then they have an Apple TV at their house. Apple TV's a decent product still.
Yeah, that one is one of the ones like, and it's got a decent price point too. Totally reasonable for what you get.
Yeah, Apple TV, not bad. I endorse Apple TV. If you want an Apple TV, go get one.
Yeah,
it's a fine product. I can't say anything bad about it really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one that even I, who obviously am not a huge fan of Apple, I'd grab one if that was what I wanted. Like, and it's got decent like support for a lot of unique content too.
I mean, I think iPads are better for kids than most Android devices.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that too. I mean, I would like to have
mostly
one,
because of third-party support, honestly, because you can buy like any kind of giant bumpery thing you want for an iPad. It's just
that's one thing I kind of would like to get an iPhone for a couple things. There's a couple peripherals for the iPhone that are fucking badass. Like I saw Barnacle review a case.
Oh, the camera one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That thing is fucking bitchin', dude.
It's pretty cool
with the light ring and the camera.
Yeah.
Dude, you're basically getting like a DSLR fucking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, iPhones traditionally they've made sure to keep the camera as a standout piece.
Yeah.
On all the iPhones because they know how much people enjoy Instagram, they're very saturated. Mm-hmm. But that's what people like, like amateur stuff. If you want to take a picture, Apple knows you love pictures. They see how many pictures people take with their phones and how much people talk about the pictures. So they're like, okay, good camera, we can do that.
Yeah, and I will agree that the iCloud thing was actually well implemented a lot earlier than any of the other providers were doing anything.
Yeah.
So Apple does have a few things that are definitely standout.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a decent grasp on their market too.
Right. I mean, that's the one thing they do. They know really well.
I mean, they know who buys their stuff. So.
Right.
The Chinese.
Well, that was rough, man. Last iPhone launch.
Yeah, I know.
I wonder if that one was because that launch itself. Because I didn't see the same thing for the 6 launch.
It may have not. It may have just not been reported.
Well,
no, the 6 launch they did do that.
I know they did, but I didn't see it nearly as bad. I know there was a lot of actual consumers in line for that one.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that launch that had that really big scandal thing, if that was because that phone had already come in rapid succession to another phone. So I know a lot of people were like, this phone is a very minor upgrade. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
One of those things like not worth waiting in line, even though there's people who wait in line regardless. But if you're one of those guys and you show up to a line that is all Chinese immigrants, not speak English, sleeping in trash bags, like
if you haven't seen this, there's a video, a little expose where they looked at the lines. People were old people, like grubby people, like they just all happened to be like Asians.
Right.
Were waiting in line with cash to buy iPhones on launch day for days, living on the streets, waiting in line to buy iPhones, and they're basically being paid by black market dealers who go back to China and then sell them on the street for like 3 times the price.
Yeah, there's a combination of where the phones go. Some of them go to Craigslist immediately here for a huge markup, and most of them go to China or even Japan, like some of the Asian countries, and Russia. Russia also takes a bunch of phones too.
Okay.
So basically, black market in general.
Yeah.
We'll link that in the description on the YouTube version of this because it's a really interesting watch.
It's a pretty neat watch, yeah.
So, but I wonder if that one, because if you even look like a few launches before that, I mean, you're looking at masses of happy people who are just fucking.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the infrastructure wasn't there probably, for there to be like such a big black market.
Yeah.
3G probably wasn't very like popular, let alone 4G.
Yeah, that's true.
So getting, an iPhone 4 didn't matter as much as getting an iPhone 5S or 6.
Right.
Because, it didn't matter because your network at home didn't support it. So there was no reason for a black market to have it.
One thing that has bothered me about Apple more than any other thing is
how many knockoffs they make. Like if you want to buy a charger, just a charger for your phone. You have to, like, even on Amazon, you have to sort through so many official Apple products.
That's a problem with Chinese
Well,
manufacturing.
I guess, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, I've had that issue before too. But my problem is when they do
No one
something.
spoofs Motorola. No one spoofs Samsung. It's just like, this is for Samsung. It's not made by Samsung.
I feel
obviously.
like half of that the spoof stuff is because of who Apple was targeting for so long. They were targeting non-tech savvy people who buy stuff without checking into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a quintessential part of their market for a long time. It's kind of changed a little bit now. They've kind of shifted a little bit more to a little bit higher end market.
Well, I mean, it's still trendy. So
Right.
if it's trendy, everybody down the line is going to want it.
Right. But because I mean, there was a while where like if you ask somebody why would you have an iPhone, they're like, because it's simple. You're like, it's not simple. It's got apps. It's a complex device. But I get why you think it's simple.
Right, but you don't go to you don't go to the Google Play Store or the Amazon App Store or some random link like you can download an APK from something. Like, it's not Android where you don't have that tinker, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you're, unlocking your phone,
Jailbreaking.
yeah, jailbreaking your phone, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is that. It is a lot simpler because the apps that come with it could be the only apps you ever use.
Right.
It's got enough core functionality just down from the Apple overlords that you don't have to worry about your phone really. And then if
Yeah.
you want to get anything, like, usually just people get games. I actually read a interesting article the other day where I think it was, I'm probably gonna misquote the number, but if memory serves me, it was like 63% of all smartphone users didn't download an app at all this year. Like, didn't download any new apps at all. It was only apps that they had already had, or it was just a reinstall. I got a new phone, reinstall old apps. Had not downloaded a new app all year.
I like that.
I mean, I don't know if I've downloaded a new app all year. I'm sure you have, because you've got your watch. When did you get your watch?
Yeah, I did do the watch stuff.
Right,
I've done that, and then I downloaded like the TechCrunch app.
Okay, so yeah, you've downloaded apps this year. I don't think I've downloaded a new app this year. I don't think I have.
Yeah. I mean,
The last app I downloaded that I needed was a game. So
yeah, I mean, I've downloaded more stuff on my Shield than I have on this.
uh-huh.
Just because I got it for games.
Right, yeah.
And I've gotten some stuff for it. But what I was going to say, the thing that I hate the most about Apple is when they do something that someone else has already been done.
Oh yeah, and they say they've innovated it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the most recent example that I have of that is Apple Pay.
Yeah.
Apple Pay was already done by Android devices with Google Wallet in the same execution on any device that had NFC.
Well, Apple Pay was done by like Express Pass years and years and years ago.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about
It's
you remember
it's very old technology.
There was keychains. I mean, that's where the infrastructure that exists now is still from. It's from the 90s.
Right, yeah. I remember going to an Exxon station. If you had your Express Pass, you just pop it right up against the thing. And I mean, I didn't have one because I'm not a truck driver. I don't have a business with 50. I don't have a fleet, but that technology was already there. Adding it to a phone is nifty, but that had been done
I
via
mean,
Google too.
there had been talk.
Even Bitcoin had been doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You just scan a barcode and that's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So,
But there was, I mean, I had heard talk for years prior to Apple Pay about switching to a system in which you had all your credit cards on your phone.
yeah.
And it would be a more secure system in regard to everything would become password protected.
Well, I think part of it stems from the community that was doing this before too. So a lot of people, what you'll do is if you get a like a discount card or a club membership,
Yeah.
or they'll put that barcode into their phone and then you can just scan that. I know Starbucks has been doing that because my girlfriend uses it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of companies have actually
Right.
done that. And there was third-party apps that did that
Right.
where you could collect all of your different cards.
Yeah.
So like there's like a club card app, and that thing still those things still exist.
Yeah, I mean it's not much different than that, really.
Right.
It's taking that piece of software and moving it to like more of a hardware kind of deal.
Yeah. Those things were kind of funny though, because sometimes the screens weren't scannable by specific lasers, like different
Smudge on it,
phones, and well, I mean some of them were too reflective. So like the screen was too reflective, and the laser wasn't seeing the barcode; it was reflecting off the glass. First.
Gotcha.
So it was just funny that it's like yeah.
There's a nifty video from Tech Syndicate. You're familiar with Tech Syndicate, where they talked about did Apple ever invent anything, and usually it's like 99.9% of the time it's no, Apple didn't invent anything, but they're very good at making things popular.
Yeah.
I mean they've done a good job of making things popular, and I can respect them for that.
I mean, marketing is the thing that they are renowned for doing.
Yeah.
Better than anyone else.
Sure.
And that is not an arguable subject. They do market better than any other tech, almost than any other company.
Yeah, I mean it's still arguable, but it's a pretty strong argument for Apple.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, it's nice. I'm glad that Apple. So one of their other newer products, I guess.
Well, hold on. One of our reviewers said if you get an anti-glare screen protector, it allows you to use the barcode scanner on your phone.
Neat.
Okay, go ahead.
So Apple made their Trash Can Pro, the Mac Pro. So because of doing that, they helped spur along some of the PCI Express-based SSDs because they were using a PCI Express-based SSDs for all of that. So that's really nice, like because PCI Express SSDs, there wasn't a huge market for it, and they were like, "Well, we're going to put one on the market. It has a PCI Express SSD, and that's all you can put in it."
Yeah, and I mean SSDs have come a decent distance, especially like the PCIe's, and it was sad because the PCIe SSD is one of the best SSDs you can get, if not the best.
Right, because the SATA doesn't keep up with PCI Express.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that's comparable would be some of the MSATA ones, but they're still not nearly like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've moved on to M.2, which is PCI Express based.
Right.
So, but then also in their trash can, they put AMD graphics back in. So I'm definitely down for anything that saves AMD.
Yeah.
And then putting everyone who is upgrading their Mac Pro from the old school big tower to the little new trash can thing is going to be on AMD graphics now, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you think about how much AMD sold in units,
Yeah.
it's surprising that they're not doing better.
Well, it's
Every console, all the Mac Pros, the trash cans, like just
Yeah.
those two like series of products. Like,
yeah. Well, the problem is that they lost all of the other Macs. So the other Macs are now using Intel integrated graphics because their processors are so much better. So they're not using, A10s,
Yeah.
And then before that they had, Intel partnered with NVIDIA. So that was before they made the switch over. But now they're doing Intel processors with AMD graphics. It's kind of like, I mean, it's kind of sucks for AMD in that regard because they're not making CPUs for Apple, but at least they do get the GPUs out of it. So
Yeah. So I mean, it's better than nothing. But
yeah.
and other than that, did they announce any new iPads or anything?
I didn't see anything about it.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, I didn't see any iPads in this recent string. But
I mean,
they
there's
could have been buried.
There's always going to be a new iPad though. I mean, I expect a new iPad Mini to come out, honestly.
Yeah. One thing that did strike me as a little odd that Apple did is they put a lot of emphasis on the Thunderbolt infrastructure, and then
Went USB 3.1. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I mean, there's a lot of, I saw some content creators who had dumped a ton of money into a Thunderbolt ecosystem,
Yeah.
and that's just, especially if you get like the MacBook,
Yeah.
you're so boned.
Yeah. If you're a content creator and you're using like your Mac ecosystem for content, do not get a MacBook.
No.
Do not get a MacBook.
I mean, you couldn't do content creation on it anyways. It's too weak. And I mean,
You
honestly,
could do it, but
you'd be
don't.
hard pressed to upload your files, download your files, move your files to it.
It's
Get your files off of it.
it's running AC. It's not that bad. If you're hooked up, it's going to be fine. But yeah, MacBook, the new MacBook, the thin, light, not super powerful computer is not made for any kind of productivity. Do not get it for that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
If you want to stay on Mac, either just get the MacBook Air, or when they refresh that, get that. Hopefully they'll refresh that, because it would suck if the new MacBook takes over the Air completely, because I guess you can't call it an Air if your MacBook is better. So
Yeah, I mean that was a problem. Was it Linus or someone? I think it was Slick, who was like, "Yeah, I just had been telling my family not to get a MacBook because they're gonna come out with a new one."
yeah,
And like, now I'm trying to explain the naming scheme to them, and they're not gonna get any of that.
yeah.
I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button, the follow button, whatever buttons apply to where you are.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing this at night at 9 o'clock, and the show goes up in the morning at 9. So, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Good night.